Well, hi.
Hey,
How's it going?
doing good. I'm just down here for a couple days, seeing some clients and seeing you.
Yeah.
We decided we would shoot a podcast and talk about sleeping, the importance of it.
Yes. It is so important. And I have this list of all these different topics we could talk about, but sleep. If you don't sleep well, then nothing else matters.
It seems that way. I always have these. I go on these spurts where I just feel miserable for a few days, and I think it's because I don't get enough rest. And it's like it accumulates for me. It seems like, anyways, like I'll get less and less sleep every night, and then I'm in a bad schedule where I can't sleep forever, and then I'm just worn out for like 3 or 4 days, and it's like a huge recovery process. Do you think that's because of sleep usually?
Usually.
Could be, anyways.
Yeah, sleep is so important. In fact, last night, when I went to bed, I was trying to go to sleep. I usually can fall asleep right off the bat, but last night it took me a little while to get to sleep. And as I was laying there trying to get to sleep, I thought, "Oh, I sure hope I get enough deep sleep." And when I woke up this morning, because I have a fitness tracker, and and when I looked at my deep sleep, I ended up getting almost 4 hours of deep sleep, which is huge. And because normally, as I've talked to people, I think the average is about maybe 2 hours, if
Of deep
that,
sleep?
of deep sleep.
When they track it.
Yeah, when they track it. And so anyway, I was really excited. I thought, do I feel like I've gotten, that much deep sleep? And actually, I do feel really good this morning. I feel very good, and I feel I have a lot of energy. And what I've noticed too is that my deep sleep alternates, so I don't get the same amount of deep sleep every night. One night the lowest I've ever gotten was just a little over an hour. And when I woke up that day, I felt like I hadn't really slept very well.
What do you think causes you to not get deep sleep for very long?
That is a really good question. I'm not exactly sure, other than maybe just what went on the day before.
Yeah.
And what your brain has been through. Maybe I hadn't been as stressed out. Maybe I didn't need quite as much deep sleep.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like when you go to sleep at nighttime, if you're in a relaxed state, it'll help you to relax into sleep better and accept it more. Relaxing is like a form of acceptance, right? I mean, I'm just kind of just winging this right now, but
yeah,
like it does make sense. If you're more relaxed, you can sleep deeper because you're more open to dropping into a deeper state of sleep.
Definitely. And so to get to sleep, sometimes I do, I have a couple of different things that I do. One is I first go to bed at the right time.
I see.
And so cortisol and melatonin are basically opposites. So when you wake up in the morning, your cortisol is going up. It peaks right around 11:30 or noon.
And cortisol what does cortisol do to you? Like, does it gives you energy?
Yes, it does. It gives you energy, and so it's very, very important that you have it. Actually, the energy comes from your mitochondria in your cells.
I see.
But cortisol is what wakes you up. It's a hormone. And so we don't really think of cortisol and melatonin as hormones, but they are.
So people that have a hard time waking up in the morning, they might have an imbalance of not getting that cortisol release or creation or whatever.
It's possible that that's it, but there are a couple other reasons they might have a difficult time waking up.
I see. And then melatonin, I mean, I take it sometimes before I go to sleep and it knocks me out. Melatonin's what helps you fall asleep.
That's right. And so melatonin really kicks in right around, at dusk. So it starts going up. Cortisol should be down at that point.
So melatonin is something that helps you relax.
Yes, and it's all about your circadian rhythm.
I see.
So you're up with the sun, cortisol's up with the sun, melatonin comes in with the moon, all right, at nighttime.
I see.
So that's your circadian rhythm, and that's just everybody has
Circadian
that.
rhythm is how the sun and the moon cycle.
Yes, and your body is on that cycle as well.
I see. So then that brings to maybe a good point of what causes you to not relax at nighttime. Because I mean, if you're in a room full of lights that are bright and kind of replicate the sun in a way, I've heard those things can keep you from sleeping. So maybe that keeps your body from that response of releasing melatonin at nighttime.
Oh, definitely,
So
definitely.
that maybe that's one first key thing is to get in deep sleep is making sure that your lights are dim after a certain time of the night or off, or candles, switching to candles even. I'll do that sometimes. I've noticed it definitely helps relax. It definitely sets a mood at least.
Well, there are some, in our day and age, there are some specific things that you'll want to do. And one is you want to get off of your electronics at least an hour to 2 hours before bedtime.
And that's because of
the blue light.
The blue light, right?
Yes. And not only the blue light, but also it's keeping your brain wired. Okay.
Right.
So
that kind of makes sense from experience.
And so what I think is very interesting is I've talked to people and they say, but it helps me to get to sleep. And I say, well, it's fooling you. It's kind of like tobacco. People smoke because they say it relaxes them, but in actuality, tobacco is a stimulant.
I see.
Okay, so it's the same principle there.
Do you think tobacco over time becomes a relaxer for people that become really adapted to it in a sense, and it's becomes something that they're familiar with, and familiarity is comfortable?
It's possible. It can also be, if you are a smoker, it can also be the action of holding that cigarette.
That's a relaxing, comforting signal for you.
It is. It can be. And so for a lot of people that have quit smoking, they say the thing that they miss the most is actually the holding the cigarette in between their fingers.
It's really weird. I wonder why.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I wonder if there's maybe there's something ingrained into us genetically. Maybe we've been smoking for a long time as humans.
It's called habit.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Habits.
Habit.
Develop all sorts of habits.
It's those ruts that we've created, those neural pathways that if we've done something long enough and often enough, then it's very difficult to change those neural pathways. But it is possible.
And neural pathway is your gut sending information to your brain? Is that what it was?
It's the connections. There are dendrites in your brain that actually grow, and if I get this right,
and those are habit. They have something to do with habits.
Yes. So the more often you do something, the more neural pathways you form that create this.
So neural pathways are like
pattern. Yeah.
Grand Canyons in your brain that represent habits, and they get ingrained in there in a sense.
Well, I wouldn't
to a degree, anyways.
Yeah, that's the idea. They're not necessarily Grand Canyons. They're more like roads.
They feel like Grand Canyons.
They're little
sometimes.
roads and synapses and connections that are formed.
Yeah.
And so to unform those, you must change your habit long enough and deep enough for those neural pathways to reform to the new habit.
And so being able to relax at nighttime or not relax is a habit you've developed.
It can be, and it depends on your nighttime routine. So I highly suggest you have a nighttime routine.
I see.
And so if you're single and you're used to having a night life, then you're not in the habit of going to bed by 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so
and going to bed by 10 o'clock is a good idea because it's with the circadian rhythm of the sun going down and the moon coming up, and you're somehow biologically affected by that to release melatonin, so it helps you relax is the idea. And when you have a nightlife and you're used to staying up past that time, and you've adapted or aka built a habit of staying up past that, screws that whole thing up.
It really does, because what happens if you stay up past 10 or 10:30 at night, then we call it the wave, and you've missed the wave, and you stay up longer, say till 11:30, midnight, and you get what is called your second wind. And that's because cortisol has begun to release again.
I see, because, you just screwed something up, and now it's kicking the cortisol out, maybe from the lights or maybe from whatever
just because
higher
you're awake.
energetic thing in a sense. Or
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I mean, it happens all the time, especially even when I go to sleep. Like, I mean, granted, I'm not on the schedule very much where I go to sleep at 10. Sometimes it's midnight, but I'm looking at my phone. I have lights on, and I go to sleep. I'm tired I notice I do have a little window where I'm tired, but then I go to sleep, and then I just have all this energy, and I can't sleep for hours, and that's the second wind.
That's the second wind. And so when you get that little window of, oh, I'm tired, you jump on it. And that's what I call catching the wave.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Right.
But I bet most people aren't consciously aware of it.
No.
Until it gets said.
Right. That's exactly right. And so just being aware of when you need to be to sleep before that second wind comes around. So that's why when I go to bed, I have a breathing routine that I do.
Yeah.
I don't meditate at bedtime anymore. I used to do a guided meditation. That's a little different than your own meditation where you spend 15 minutes with a mantra.
Yeah.
A guided meditation can actually help you relax to get to sleep. But if you do your own meditation where you're using a mantra, then you really don't want to do that past 5 p.m. But if you meditate every single day, twice a day for 15 minutes, I have a meditation program that I follow, and it's by Emily Fletcher. And she's just written a book called Stress Less, Accomplish More.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what her meditation can do for you, because you meditate 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, and it actually, after a week or two, you will begin sleeping better and deeper. And that could be partly why I slept deeper, because I've been trying to incorporate her meditation. The afternoon meditation is more difficult to get in just because you're busy, your day is going. You've got to especially or take special time out. But really 15 minutes is nothing, when you really start doing it. And it makes such a big difference. It really does calm the nervous system. It helps you relax at night, get to sleep better, sleep deeper, awake more refreshed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think cutting food out earlier helps you go to sleep easier, or what do you think on that?
Yes. Oh, definitely. In fact, that is another thing to remember, is you really don't want to eat anything 3 hours prior to bedtime.
Just because when your stomach's digesting things, it messes with
keeps you awake. And so, it doesn't always keep you awake, but your body doesn't get the restful sleep that it needs. It doesn't do the repairing of the rest of the body. So I do intermittent fasting, and that's where I will fast at least 16 hours. So I try not to eat past 5 p.m. Now, some people can't go that. They have to go a little later, like maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah.
But I do 5. I feel good that way. Everybody is a little different, so you've got to have, listen to your body and be intuitive that way. But I try to stop eating around 5 or 5:30, and then I don't eat again until the next day around 9:30 or 10.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, and it's about 6 to 7 hour window that I eat in every day. That's intermittent fasting. Ideally, you want to go 16 hours with maybe an 8 hour window. Okay, that's the minimum really that you want to do.
I see.
So you can go a little longer. But when you do that, you allow your body, let's put it this way. Most of your energy all day long is in your digestive system. Okay, you're spending a lot of energy digesting your food, breaking it down and moving it through.
Yeah.
absorption of minerals and nutrition, so forth, nutrients. And so when you stop eating, you allow that digestion to complete itself.
Yeah.
And then your digestive tract begins cleaning house.
I see.
So you have a time period there where there is no food in your digestive tract.
It's like a natural cleanse.
It is.
And
it's
a lot of people don't get that natural cleanse, do they?
No.
They have this idea that you should eat all day long, which is kind of ingrained into us. Somewhere along the lines, people thought it was a good idea to eat all day.
Well, and I'll tell you one reason why, and that is because there are certain medical conditions where they need to eat a little bit more often. No, diabetes isn't one of them, but now my mind went blank. The opposite of diabetes.
Hyperglycemic?
Yeah, hypoglycemic. Hypoglycemia, you do need to eat, often. You can't just do a fast like that.
Yeah, but hypoglycemia is something that's developed from bad eating habits.
It's also
right?
connected to insulin resistance, yes.
Which
is where it's all about the pancreas.
So we don't want to get to that point. When we get to that point, then we have to change. We have to follow different rules.
Yeah, and so hypoglycemia also, we're told you need a little sugar. This is what medically they tell you. You need to get a little sugar in you. So everybody carries around little candies or whatever when they're starting to feel low.
Yeah.
But really, you need to be carrying around protein. It's protein.
Interesting.
And so protein actually helps to raise your blood sugar to where it needs to be. So, my goal when I work with my clients is to help them balance their blood sugar. And the best way to do that is to just get rid of all your carbs. Now, if you're hypoglycemic, you can't do that totally.
Yeah.
But if you're diabetic, you can. In fact,
it's type 2 diabetes,
type
right?
2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, all of it you must do under the care of your healthcare practitioner.
Yeah.
So you want to be really careful, especially if you are a brittle diabetic or, type 1 diabetic.
I see.
So you do need to be careful. But if you are pre-diabetic, boy, I would certainly just get rid of all those simple carbs, no bread, no pasta, no sugars, and learn how to eat a low carb diet. It's good, and you'll be amazed at how much energy you have, and you won't have these fluctuations in blood sugar, and you won't have those afternoon slumps of, I got to take a nap. I mean, when I started eating this way, all of my afternoon tiredness went away. And so
there's an adaptation process, though, right? If
there
you're
is.
really adapted to eating simple carbs.
Right, exactly. And again, that's those neural pathways you're going to need to
the habits,
you have to change those habits, and it's your thinking patterns that you'll want to change.
And that also complements being able to intermittent fast better, right? Because simple carbohydrates process through your system fast. They spike up insulin, and high insulin causes more hunger, at least the hormone, right? Or, or whatever that, however you say that.
Yes. And so it's all very interesting. And so when you apply this to sleep, you just want to stop eating about 3 hours before bedtime. Now, if you suspect that your blood sugar is dropping in the middle of the night, and sometimes that happens with people.
Yeah.
And what happens, and then they wake up, and what causes them to wake up if their blood sugar drops, cortisol kicks in, because cortisol will raise your blood sugar. So here's another thing to keep in mind. If you are stressed out all day long, you don't have a chance for that cortisol to start dropping naturally.
So another goal is to figure out how to not be so stressed all the time.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why meditation is so powerful.
Yeah.
It helps us to slow down in our day.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it makes sense. I mean, stress is probably mostly caused by our thoughts, right? And meditation is a form of changing your thoughts or getting out of them into the moment more, which is the counter to most mental stress, right? I mean, physical stress is a different thing. It's useful.
Yeah.
And unless overloaded, maybe.
Well, stress comes from two different directions. It comes from either an external source or an internal source. So that internal source is your thoughts and the way you handle maybe that external stress.
That makes sense. And I think people get confused on that because they blame outside sources for their mental stress. But anytime it comes to mental, it's almost always controllable by yourself, right? Or like you're able to change it with the right kind of practice and habit forming.
Exactly. And
just being aware of that is a huge step, because I mean, people blame external forces for the way they feel or the way they think when it's caused by their thoughts, and then their thoughts, influence the way they feel, and vice versa sometimes. But.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And so I think the way you want to do it is, first off, you need to be aware that, hey, my thoughts are causing this. And I discovered this when, after, your dad, my husband passed away.
Yeah.
I started waking up with these feelings of doom. And what I didn't realize at the time was I had developed some anxiety.
I see.
And so anxiety, a lot of people, well, it's on the rise. Depression and anxiety are they're like epidemic proportions now.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and I think, why? Why are we having so much depression, so much anxiety in our American population? And it isn't just America, it is worldwide, but Americans are the worst, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with our technology and how much we're on there, because we know that technology is a stimulant.
Yeah.
So it keeps your brain going. And if you're on your phone all day long, I mean, everywhere you look, everybody's got their head down looking at their phone while they're walking. Even a lot of people can't stop looking at their phone even while they're driving, because they're always looking down at it. Or when they stop at a light or a stop sign.
I'm really great at texting and driving. Pretty good at it.
Yeah, well, nobody's really great at multitasking. They think they are because they do it a lot.
Well,
until
I know
one day.
I'm not really multitasking, but...
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I know I'm not actually multitasking. Well, it is, but it's like I'm not actually putting my attention on two things. I'm switching it back and forth between one thing, which is the danger, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Or a big part.
Yeah, so just be really, really aware of where's your attention. As soon as you put your phone down, are you right back into driving? And plus, are you driving while you're sitting at a stoplight? Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're still out in traffic. But you're still behind the wheel.
I have people that I don't want to ignore, and I can get things done more efficiently when I'm doing things on my phone while I'm driving. Then when I get to my place, I'm already done talking to these people, and this work's done.
I know. That's the red. That's the red part of your personality. Production.
Yeah.
I've got to be productive.
I've
all
heard
the time.
that not everybody wants to be that way.
No, they don't.
I kind of used to think that everybody did.
Yeah.
That's not true, but.
Well, so you've read the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss?
I never read it.
Oh, you're going to want to read that. That'll help you organize your time so that your phone doesn't own you.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, so that's kind of where you want to be. Is you want to own your phone. You don't want it to own you.
Yeah.
And so even myself, I have this thing where last year I went through some stress. I did not bounce back like I had hoped.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what do I do? What do I do? I didn't know. I hadn't ever had anxiety before in my life. And then when I started experiencing it, I really had to slow down.
Yeah.
And so what I started doing, which is very ironic, is I started playing solitaire on my phone. And then I realized this is not good. Maybe for about 15 minutes, it's okay. Then shut it off. But you know how these games are addictive because they tap into the dopamine. They release dopamine into your brain. And dopamine is a pleasure neurotransmitter, you know, but it's also a seeking one. So it seeks pleasure. It keeps you seeking pleasure until you get it. And then when you get it, you want more. Yeah. So it's constant. And so this is the thing that I've learned is that first off, learning to get away from your electronics more is a big deal. It'll help you to be able to make that break before bedtime.
Which reminds me, so many people like to watch TV while they're going to sleep. It's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, and again, it's so that habit.
Yeah.
That's a habit. And some people say, well, I'm just fine if I sleep only 4 or 5 hours a night. Well, if you're getting under 7 hours of sleep a night, you are not getting enough sleep. And there are very, very few humans that function optimally under 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
that.
and the thing is that we look like we are and we can appear like we are, but then where does the breakdown come? Does it come earlier in life? Does it come the next day? Does it come in a week? When does disease set in? Because you have not allowed your body to repair itself efficiently enough by getting a shorter amount of sleep. So this is the thing. And so what does sleep actually do? We talked about one thing, where it really takes the energy away from the digestive tract and into other parts of our body. And if you do the intermittent fasting where you stop eating for 16 hours, then you can go into a condition called autophagy. And that basically simply means that your cells are dying off and getting eliminated, you know. And so that's what cancer is. It's cells that have not fully died but are dangerous and are mutating,
So fasting helps to eliminate those cells, those mutated cells.
Yes, and so it can help you get rid of potentially cancerous cells.
I see.
Basically. So, but you need to fast for at least 16 hours.
I see.
And the easiest way to do that is from dinner time to maybe mid-morning the next day.
Because you're asleep part of that time.
Yeah, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to fast.
And then what about cannabis, smoking cannabis before you go to sleep? I've heard that's not a great idea.
Well, I don't know a lot about doing that right before you go to sleep. Yeah. I haven't talked to a lot of people that do that right before they go to sleep. I just know that cannabis, THC, and CBDs, they can actually help you relax. And it might be okay to do that, kind of think of it as a dinner time thing, 3 hours before you go to bed, if it's going to help you relax, if that's something that you feel like you must do. The goal for me is to not have any substance or be dependent on any substance to get me to sleep.
Yeah.
That's the ideal. And, I've used herbs, and so have you, medicinal herbs, and I make tinctures out of it, and that's using alcohol to pull out the medicinal properties.
Yeah.
Of the herb. And so I've used that, and I have one that's I call it the Calm Relax tincture, and it's very, very mild. And if you have been taking Ambien or Unisom or some powerful sleep inducer, then you are really going to want to get off of those gradually, and it takes time to break the habit of doing that. It really does. I've talked to a lot of people that have been hooked on Ambien.
Yeah.
And it's been very, very difficult to get off of that. And most people give up and they don't continue trying to get off, but you can. You can do that, especially if you have the help of, I don't know if a medical doctor will help you because they're in the habit of prescribing medicines, not getting you off of them.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get off of something, you're going to want to seek some professional help if you're really, really addicted to it and your body's become dependent on it.
That makes sense.
But with medicinal herbs, some people take valerian, and there's passion flower, there's wood betony. There are different herbs that actually help your body and your mind to relax. Kava, St. John's wort. But you still need to be very careful and not overdo it. Some people are more sensitive to St. John's wort. But there are teas that you can take. They call sleepy time tea, chamomile tea, and a lot of it is the warmth. Also, another factor in getting a good night's sleep is having the adequate levels of magnesium in your body.
I see.
And so one of the things I like to recommend to my clients that are struggling to get to sleep or relax at night is taking an Epsom salt bath. And I would add 2 to 3 cups of Epsom salt into a nice
Epsom
water.
salt gets magnesium in your body?
It does, because the best way for your body to absorb magnesium is through the skin.
I see.
All right. And so Epsom salt contains a lot of magnesium. And also you can...
Is that why Epsom salt relaxes people then?
Yes, that's exactly what it does. And you can also order magnesium flakes. And I would put in 1 cup to 2 cups of magnesium flakes if that's what you're using.
In the bath?
Yeah, in the bath. And then also I've used a magnesium oil. And that's from a company called Ancient Minerals. And so that's a little pricier. Epsom salts is pretty inexpensive, and most people can afford that. But you can also take magnesium glycinate in the form of a capsule. It's not as absorbable, but it's better than magnesium citrate and some of these others. So magnesium is one thing that's important, especially if you tend to get leg cramps in the middle of the night. I did that for a little while, and it was miserable. I would be in this deep sleep, and then my leg would cramp up. And what I discovered I thought it was magnesium deficiency. Yeah. So I started putting the magnesium oil on my legs, and it helped a little bit, but I kept thinking it doesn't help every single time. And then I discovered the problem. I was dehydrated. So if you're dehydrated, you will get more cramps in the nighttime. And a lot of older people, they don't like to drink before bedtime. They don't want to drink water before bedtime because they don't want to have to get up and pee in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And but again, are you waking up? Why are you waking up? Is it because you have to pee, or you woke up and then you have to pee?
Oh, interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah. So you just, it's about being intuitive and listening to your body.
Yeah.
So.
So let's sum up everything. So the first one was, you need to get your melatonin to release at nighttime before you go to sleep, and when you wake up, cortisol needs to be released. So you need to figure out how to get on that circadian rhythm where the sun goes down and the moon comes up, and your body's aligned with that.
Right.
And so dimming the lights, staying off of technology, making sure you're in a fasted state when you go to sleep can be a huge help.
Yes.
Because your body's not processing food. And then making sure your mineral levels are high enough, like your magnesium.
Yeah, and even potassium. So
potassium even.
A lot of dark leafy greens in your diet.
So another reason why it's valuable to eat, in a sense, healthy diet where you're eating higher amounts of vegetables and maybe even meat.
Yeah.
I mean, magnesium's in meat. Right?
Oh, yeah. And red meat.
Or it's in salt, right?
Yes.
It's in salt and red meat.
If you eat the right kind of salt.
The Himalayan salt?
The Himalayan pink salt, the Redmond salt, any salt that is not pure white.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting it directly from the sea. Even if you
that
drink...
all has magnesium. So there's multiple ways you can get that magnesium. Just making sure you're eating a healthy diet, or if you don't feel like you're eating a healthy diet, the bath with the salt, with the whatever salt's called. Salt.
Epsom salts or magnesium flakes.
Right, Epsom salt or magnesium flakes. And then there was one more, I think, that you said at the end.
What did I say?
Oh, well.
Anyway,
we talked about it earlier, so people can.
There are really a lot of things. A lot of things you can do. Oh, tea. Maybe drinking an herb tea to relax you. Oh, here's just another thing.
It's about relaxing, because relaxing is where relaxing means that melatonin's being released, right?
Yes, and I want to point something out, and that is going to bed at the same time every night at that 10:30 range is incredibly important, because not only will you get to sleep,
circadian rhythm
circadian rhythm, but it will help you stay asleep. So if you go to bed later, and even though you get to sleep pretty well, you may wake up more often during the night.
Yeah, and it's about getting in those deep states that really helps you rest and recover.
And repair your brain.
That makes sense.
It gets rid of the free radicals. It helps get rid of the waste.
And then when you wake up feeling better, you function better throughout the day, and your life's better.
Yes. And I wanted to address really quick, when people wake up, even though they've had a lot of sleep, and they can wake up feeling really groggy and like they haven't slept.
Yeah.
It could partly be because you're waking up in the middle of a REM cycle. So REM cycles are about 90 minutes.
And that might be because you're going to sleep too late.
You could either be going to sleep too late, or you're waking up, say you go to sleep at 10 and you wake up at 6, but the REM cycle ends at 5:30.
So you might be sleeping in too much sometimes.
Yeah, so I've found that that's the case with me. If I wake up at 5:30, I feel more rested than if I wake up at 6.
Cool. So. All right, well, I don't know how long that's been, but sounds like we covered most of it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think we did, but yeah, I can't emphasize good sleep enough.
Yeah, it sounds super important. It seems like it could be a life changer for everybody that doesn't get good sleep.
Yeah, and if you're on the night shift,
you're screwed.
You are, unless you can get that changed. And
yeah,
that's what I would recommend.
Yeah,
as much as possible. Yeah. So anyway, awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sam.